Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this isn't a loading screen you're used to. But that's because our hero, Nicholas XD555, was just invited to a platoon with the dynamic platoon feature that Wargaming implemented quite a long time ago now by Rusengine, also playing in the same tank, the Tier 10 German tank destroyer, the Jagdpanzer E-100. And this is going to be a bit of a bromance or a love story, so to say. We're going to see some fantastic, great, sporadic, grassroots team play in this game. And I thought this replay was very topical. Why is that? Because, well, the Jagdpanzer E-100 is top of the tree, at least on the European server right now. Currently, you get about 250% crew training in this tank when you play it, making it even better for training than if you were to play your Jagdtiger 88, or if maybe you were going to try and crew train in the E25. My crewhood's been shooting up in this tank, and it's not a vehicle that I usually play very often, even though it is very satisfying when you do manage to hit someone with this monstrous 170mm gun, but it's just not really my kind of style. I usually forego armor to be able to get speed, and quite often don't really like the super high alpha damage guns, because I'd rather have something that I can either immobilize my opponents with a good rate of fire, or usually these kind of guns, well, the very high alpha damage ones, don't have the best DPM. And the Jagdpanzer E-100 is no exception, with just under 2,500 DPM. That's over 500 less than, for example, an SDB-1 or an Object 140, those top tier 10 medium tanks. And even some of the heavies, such as the 113, are really starting to be able to challenge the tier 10 tank destroyers for just putting out damage over time. But let's not forget, when you've got a 170mm gun, you can put in fairly big shots without having to fire more than one round. Is this Conqueror about to... His life is about to flash before his eyes. Oh gosh. Oh, that is a pathetic roll. What a disappointment. I built that up so much. 824? What? That is 226 damage lower than the average alpha damage of this gun. This gun, on average, does 1,050 damage, meaning that it can take pretty much half the hit points off any kind of vehicle. And this tier 9 British heavy tank, the Conqueror, is... he's not really very happy now. I'm not really going to tell you what he's going to say in the chat, but he basically is saying, I don't want to play this game anymore, I am out. Or at least that is the PC version. And he says, Serb, go bake yourself a cake. Or you can read into that how you would want. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, talk about Serb, the infamous developer of World of Tanks that a lot of people seem to like to pray to, especially me, when I like to try and put in shots. But obviously also curse him when things go wrong for you, hey? That Conqueror is no exception. But I digress. Let's talk about this fantastic, awesome machine that is the Jagdpanzer E-100 that is top of the tree at the moment. 30% discount, so you can get this tank for... gosh, that is a fairly meaty discount on a tier 10 tank when you think about it. We're talking about at least 1.5 to 2 million credits off this vehicle at the moment. That's a great price to pick them up on. Shame I've already got it, right? Shame I've already got most of the tier 10 tanks, but I guess that kind of defeats the point. Almost an average roll there. 1,049 damage done to that tier 8 American light tank. Talking about tier 8 light tanks, there's one of those brand new M4190s. Maybe Nicholas is going to be able to get a shot into him. Let's take a look. Oh, he's going very quickly, though. This is a tricky shot for any tier 10 tank destroyer. He takes a punt. Oh, no, that didn't go anywhere near. That was a bit of a wide one. Okay, we'll just ignore that one. So the Jagdpanzer E-100, fair enough, it's got this gigantic 170mm gun, but it also looks like its armor is very thick. And yes, it is very thick. The only real weaknesses to this tank are the lower plate, 150mm, that you don't really want to expose unless you have absolutely no choice. The upper plate, 200mm. That is very thick considering how well angled it is. You are not going to be going through that upper plate unless you're shooting down onto this tank from some funky angle like this. So what about the superstructure of this tank, this upper hull armor here? Is he going to be able to pen this mouse just quickly? Do you know what is so convenient about this tank in commentary is that I can pretty much tell you everything about the tank between the reloads, because that's how long it takes to put a round into this machine. So, the Superstructure, 250 millimeters along here. Oh! Good night, Mr. M48 Patton. And 300 millimeters directly around the gun. You see this bolting area around here? That is very thick indeed. If you want to penetrate one of these tanks and you don't have pretty much 250 pen, you're not going to be able to really go through the lower plate very reliably at all unless you're aiming up into it, and then you've got a good chance. And for going through the Superstructure on the tank, you pretty much want to be firing premium rounds when he is not angling his tank. Now Nicholas blind fires there. We'll have to take a look later on whether he did manage to go into the mouse there. And boy, what a mouse that is. Gosh, that mouse is having a hell of a game here. It is a pink fluffy unicorn, 4 kills. We're going to have to see who drives the top tier German tanks better, hey? Is it going to be Rusengine and Nicholas, the newly formed platoon that have already managed to pick up 4 kills between them? Or is it going to be that mouse? No, he didn't manage to hit that mouse. It's still on 100% hit points. So, while it was a good try, a swing and a miss. But will Nicholas be able to hit the enemy Jagdpanzer E-100? Now, obviously on Lakeville, this is just such a strong defensive location for a tank like this. The main weaknesses of this vehicle are obviously getting shot in the side. Although one thing I will add is that while there's only 120 millimeters of side armor on this tank, it does have 60 millimeters of spaced armor over the side. So if you're the kind of player that quite often fires premium rounds, 1,137 damage done to the mouse, you probably don't want to shoot this thing in the side too much, because that 60 millimeters of spaced armor is just going to laugh, and you're not going to be able to go through that. And also the 120 millimeters of hull armor underneath that. Oh gosh, talking about top tier German tanks, there's a WT Alpha E-100 making his way through, I guess, the church area there of Lakeville. That's something that, obviously that's the next question, right? What is better, the Jagdpanzer E-100 or the WT Alpha E-100? Well, 2 completely different tanks for 2 completely different things. I'd say that against tier 8 vehicles, the Jagdpanzer E-100 is vastly better because, well, its armor is good enough to be able to just brush aside those tanks, at least frontally. Even if they fire premium rounds at you, they're going to find it very hard to be able to go through your tank. But as soon as you start dealing with tier 10s and many tier 9 tanks, and they do fire premium rounds at you, especially rounds such as the 330 millimeters of heat pen that you get on many of the medium tank guns, then even the cheeks of the Jagdpanzer E-100 are not amazing unless you angle them very well. And so, my main tip for taking out this tank is that if you can't find its lower plate, don't even bother to shoot at its superstructure if it's angling like this. You're not really going to be able to go through unless you hit the cheeks, and he's not using any gun depression because of the natural angling of the superstructure. Oh gosh. Well, we were talking about what tank is better, the WT Alpha E-100 or the Jagdpanzer E-100, and I guess it's whoever gets the jump on the other person first, right? As Nicholas shaves off a gigantic hit for 1,158 from his opposing Tier 10 German tank destroyer. Will he be able to put another one in? Looks like he might do. He's wasting heat ammunition here, though. He doesn't really need to be firing these heat rounds. He could have done with an AP round, or a high explosive round would have been even more efficient against this weakly armored German turret. Talking about high explosive rounds, this tank does get some monstrous high explosive rounds. These 170mm do 1,400 damage if you manage to penetrate with the 85mm of penetration that the rounds have. And against tanks such as the WT Alpha E-100, that's very, very useful. But it's not only useful for shooting against tanks that have very weak armor, such as the WT Alpha E-100, but it's also very useful for shooting at tanks that are hull down. Imagine yourself as you're pretty much a Tier 7 or maybe even a Tier 8 self-propelled gun firing at the enemy vehicles. If you hit them pretty much anywhere on the tank, you're going to do about 300 to 400 damage. And so, in those kind of very prolonged engagements against enemies that don't have high caliber guns or are willing to fire high explosive rounds at you, the Jagdpanzer E-100 can do very well with its high explosive ammunition, which is one of the reasons why I like to take quite a lot of it. So Nicholas and Rusengine are up to 6 kills each here. Not each, sorry, together. Now at 7 combined kills, and they're each holding each other's backs. This is beautiful. The enemy mouse is not messing around here, and he decides to push in. He's on 5 kills. He's going to be hunting a top gun. And I guess he wants to tank for his team and thinking that this Nicholas here in the Jagdpanzer E-100 is not going to be able to deal with him. Unfortunately, Nicholas can't stop the mouse from taking a shot at his newly found buddy, but maybe he can find the Jagdpanzer E-100 here, who over-angles his armor, giving him a nice shot in through the side, taking out one of the very dangerous tanks that they'll have to deal with. Now Nicholas and Rusengine are alone, and they're going to try and bully this unicorn mouse on the enemy team. Let's see how long that 63% hit points, that 2,000 hit points that the mouse had, lasts against two Jagdpanzer E-100s. And the answer is not very long at all. As Rusengine and Nicholas managed to basically remove about another 2,000 hit points from that vehicle. Gosh, I was thinking that I would say that they would two-shot a mouse, but the mouse has 3,000 hit points. So up to 9 kills apiece now. Now Nicholas is at 8,740 damage. Oh my lord, he blows the head clean off the Leopard prototype there. He didn't really aim that one. I think that was maybe an auto-aim, but the job's done. 789 damage with an unnecessary ammo rack. Now Nicholas, I think that was a bit of a misplay. He repaired his tracks even though they weren't fully off there, but maybe he just didn't want them to get fully damaged, I guess. But oh well, he bounces the WTF Panzer Fear's APCR round. And let's just highlight, that is 350 millimeters of penetration that the WTF Panzer Fear had. Bouncing off his tank, bounces a heat round from the T-34-3, an AP round from the STA-1. He brushes into the T-34-3, doing a little bit of ramming damage. Well, a little bit, 301 ramming damage. Almost jousting. This is like a medieval joust here. And now Rusengine finishes off the T-34-3 that Nicholas just ignored. This is absolutely amazing that Nicholas had so much respect and confidence in his newfound platoon mate that he just ignored the T-34-3, went on to go and finish off the other vehicles, and trusted Rusengine to take down a vehicle that usually, if it gets the flank of an E-100 Jagdpanzer, would be able to take it out from 100% to 0. And with Rusengine's final blow into that AMX 1390, these two new brothers-in-arms pick up 14 kills between them in this tier 10 game, of which they were a massive statistical underdog at 38%. What a result, great camaraderie. Let's just take a quick look at the post-game stats. So Nicholas and Rusengine managed to pick up a Brothers-in-Arms medal for each securing 3 kills and also surviving the battle, the crucial contribution medal for destroying at least 12 of the enemy team between them, with Nicholas picking up a Pools medal for his 10 kills and also, unsurprisingly, a high caliber for 11,353 damage. Nicholas, thank you so much for submitting this replay. It was an absolute pleasure to see the Jagdpanzer E-100, which is top of the tree at the moment, just kicking so much butt. And I wonder if you and Rusengine are now the best of buddies and play World of Tanks all the time together, because it looks like this was a match made in heaven. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as well. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see more awesome Jagdpanzer E-100 replays, then simply click the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see a plethora of awesome games. And let me know in the comments down below if you've ever used the dynamic platoon function. And if so, have you managed to have anywhere as near of an epic game as our two heroes in this video? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.